Legendary CBS News anchor Walter Cronkite once said, "Freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy." It's clearer now more than ever just how vital good journalism is for the culture at large. Any journalist worth their salt seeks only the truth and will stop at nothing to find it. Through hard work and gumption, a quality investigative journalist can leave their mark on history. Upton Sinclair's 1906 book The Jungle exposed Americans to the unsanitary conditions in the meat industry. Edward R. Murrow's reporting on Senator Joseph McCarthy helped put a stop to the House of Un-American Activities Committee. Woodward and Bernstein's stories on Watergate led to the resignation of President Richard Nixon. Now, as impressive as those feats are, and they are impressive, there is one investigation that stands above the rest. A shining beacon of light in the world of journalism that truly set the standard. This is Pop Culture Hyperfixations, and today we're going to be taking a look at the story of Bat Boy.
But no matter what happens, it's going to change the way we think about mankind and evolution forever.
Now obviously, you can't tell the story of Bat Boy without telling the story of the Weekly World News. The paper was created in 1979 for the same reason as all other great newspapers: to make money. When the National Enquirer tabloid shifted to a color format, that left its old black and white printing presses unused. Never one to miss an opportunity, owner Generoso Pope Jr. decided to use them to launch a new tabloid that he called the Weekly World News. Unlike the National Enquirer, which covered celebrity gossip, the Weekly World News would focus more on the unusual and bizarre. Now, there was some gossip here and there, but for the most part, the paper was comprised of strange stories the writers sourced from other papers across the world. The Weekly World News started off as a modest success, but by the mid-80s, the format was already getting stale. Pope was getting frustrated and constantly pressured the staff to continuously up the ante. Without many options, the writers acquiesced and upped the ante by downplaying the truth. As former editor Joe Berger explained to writer Jake Ross in an article for Mental Floss, so Pope kept hitting the editors hard to make it more and more exciting. No matter how they jazzed it up, he wasn't happy. They didn't want to lose their jobs, and he was the kind of guy where if you didn't please him, you were gone. They were running for their lives and gradually had to come up with wilder and wilder stuff to please him. The only way to do it was to gradually add stories that weren't true. That's when stories about aliens and the weirder stuff, Bigfoot tried to eat my little boy, came up. It was a demand from the boss for more exciting stuff. There just wasn't any way to adhere to the truth and give him what he wanted. And with that, the Weekly World News began to shift into the legendarily offbeat tabloid it became famous for. Anyone who walked down a checkout aisle back then remembers seeing the over-the-top headlines. It was the only paper in the supermarket checkout aisle that dared to tell you the truth about Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and space aliens. TV Guide wasn't going to tell you about the face on Mars. Unless, of course, that face was Abe Vigoda.
Come back to bed, Abe.
Not now, dear. I'm squeezing avocados.
Believe it or not, the Weekly World News wasn't entirely fictional. There was usually some element of truth in their stories. Numerous writers have said that the motto around there was simply, never talk yourself out of a good story. If someone called in with a tip, they'd take it at face value and use that as the base for their article. Reporters would then use their imagination to help fill in the rest of the details. Some would call it using artistic license, while others would call it making a bunch of stuff up. Generoso Pope would call it perfection, as the new direction for the Weekly World News was incredibly successful. The paper appealed equally to two different kinds of people. The people who saw the paper for what it was and were in on the joke, and the other ones who really and genuinely thought it was real. By 1988, the paper had over 1 million subscribers. In May of that same year, they also had their highest selling issue in history, when they revealed the shocking truth that Elvis was still alive. It is a defining story in the paper's history, and probably one of the very first things people think about when they think of the Weekly World News. The other thing people would think about? He would come 4 years later, when the world was finally introduced to Bat Boy.
Our cover story this evening begins in a cave deep beneath the Earth's surface. It is here that a college professor and a group of his students have uncovered what may be a living remnant of our human past.
Bat Boy originally started as a baby, or rather a photo of one. Artist Dick Culpa was trying to create an alien baby for one of the paper's articles, and decided to try and give him some ears, reminiscent of Spock from Star Trek. When editor Sal Lavone saw it, he thought it looked more like a half-human, half-bat, and decided that should be the story. Reporter Derek Klontz was credited with filling out the backstory, while Bob Lind was tasked with writing the very first Bat Boy article. In the article, it's revealed that Bat Boy was discovered in the caves of West Virginia by a scientist named Ron Dillon. Dillon was exploring the caves when he discovered a strange creature stuck between some rocks. The creature was the size of a small child but had the strength of a chimpanzee. Dillon was able to tranquilize the creature and move him to a research facility. He hoped to study him and learn more about just where the hell he came from. The issue and its iconic cover hit newsstands on June 23, 1992 to massive sales. The issue sold almost 1 million copies, and is credited as the second highest selling edition in the paper's history, just behind the Elvis issue. The Bat Boy story proved so popular that he became a consistently recurring character. Over the coming years, Weekly World News frequently reported on his movements. After being subjected to abuse by an evil custodian, Batboy escaped the research facility and traveled the country. He attacked several people, including a small girl, and was hunted down by bounty hunters and the FBI. While his origins were never fully revealed, there were hints of just where Batboy came from. One popular theory put forth that he was part of a race of previously undiscovered subterranean creatures who evolved separately from Homo sapiens. Another story claimed that Batboy's father was actually an undisclosed famous country singer. It's never been revealed just who his daddy is, but I have a theory.
Yeah, tonight I'm sitting alone, digging up bones.
For whatever reason, people just couldn't get enough of Batboy. In an interview with Vice.com, Dick Culpa theorized that the reason for Batboy's success was, quote, the face just connects. People see themselves in him. I imagine millions of people who may feel the same way that I do. They see emotion in the face. When you look at Pixar movies, which are so wildly popular, you see the emotion. They really capitalize on characters. And Batboy does that with his face. It says, get me out of here. Look at the shape the world is in. Maybe it needs Batboy to straighten it out. Maybe he reflects the deep down feelings of millions, if not billions of people on this planet. Batboy grew so popular that he even inspired a stage production. Batboy the Musical began in 1997 in Los Angeles, and by the spring of 2001 it had moved to New York City as an off-Broadway production. The story of the musical sees Batboy discovered outside a small town, and the difficulties he has adapting to the surface world. I won't delve into too many details because, well, I don't want to. But if you look around YouTube long enough, you'll see that seemingly every high school in America has done a version of it. I guess I do owe you at least one out-of-context clip from it, so here you go.
Always live inside your
Surprisingly, the musical received a lot of positive attention. There was even a rumor that John Landis wanted to direct a film adaptation, but I'm glad that never happened because, well, John Landis. It seemed like momentum might be building to see the show on Broadway, but the attacks of September 11th changed everything. Tourism in New York City dried up, and so did the hopes of Batboy on Broadway. Not only did September 11th change the world, it even changed Batboy. Previous to that day, most Batboy reporting depicted him as a menace. He was kind of a sympathetic figure, but he was also unpredictable and dangerous. All that changed when a newly patriotic Batboy hopped an army base fence and demanded to join the Marines. With that, he officially turned face and set forth on his wildest adventures. Over the next few years, Batboy went to Afghanistan and Iraq, where he was awarded a Bronze Star for his help in capturing Saddam Hussein. He stopped a nuclear bomb in Washington, D.C. by peeing on it, was knighted by Queen Elizabeth, tried out for American Idol, and of course, who could forget the time he married Britney Spears? Yeah, the 2000s were a great time for Batboy, but unfortunately the same couldn't be said for the Weekly World News. By 2007, the paper that once bolstered 1 million subscribers was down to 80,000. The proverbial writing was on the wall, and the decision was made to end the paper. On August 27, 2007, the Weekly World News published its final issue. But if there's one thing that we have learned from Batboy, it's that he cannot be stopped. Earlier this year, it was reported that the creators of Riverdale are working on a Batboy television show for Netflix, which is a sentence I never expected to say out loud. The Weekly World News does still exist, just online now. And that means Batboy is still out there getting into trouble. Over the past few years, he's done everything from stop the Mayan apocalypse to run for president a couple times. Now, he hasn't won yet, but there was a prophecy foretold of in an old edition of the Weekly World News that 2028 would finally be the year Batboy becomes Commander-in-Chief. We'll see if it happens, but whatever the future brings for Batboy, I know it'll be special. Because to me, Batboy and the Weekly World News, we're special. God bless you, Batboy. Until we meet again. Oh yeah, he also went to space. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, or at the very least hit the like button. And let me know in the comments what your favorite Weekly World News stories are. For me, it's hard to top KKK skeletons found in a Titanic life raft.